Hello! In this tutorial I'll teach how to create a page with a matrix with some combined columns. Something like the board that we see here in this Excel. So where we can see that we have a list of games and then we have the results. Where 1, that means that the first team won, X means that there was a tie, and 2 means that team B won. So basically each game has a group, has a gender, has a division and belongs to a championship. So basically what we need to do, we needed to create this database structure so then we can have this board. So basically the database structure is something that we have here below, where we have here the games, where we have this table here, the game, where a game will have a group ID, a gender, a division and a championship. So the championships is basically a very simple table with the ID and the name of each championships. With the divisions we have an ID and the names of each division. The gender is male or female, and the group we have the ID and the name of the groups. So then we can relate these types of tables in the game table through the IDs of each individual table, as we can see it here. Additionally, each game will have a date, and then so we can have the statistic board here. We have the axis X in this case, where we have 1, X, 2. These are in the result table where we have 1, X and 2. 1 means the team A won, X means a tie, 2 means the team B won. So then we can correlate the game table with the result table in the third table called game result table, where in here we say the game with ID 1, it means that the team A won. The second game it was a tie, and the third game was the team B that won. So as we can see here, the first game, so with ID 1 was Benfica that won, the second game was a tie, and the third game it was Guimarães that won. This third game was a team B. So the idea is, based on all this information here, we want to draw this board in here. So how can we do this? Through our framework, through the page editor. So one of the ways that we can do this is to create all these tables here in our database. We will not do that. What we'll do is we'll just create all this information in static lists in the page editor, and then so we can then create the correspondent matrix. So let's open our framework by logging into it. Let's select the correspondent project, and in this project I already create here a file called matrix columns combine, which contains basically all the static data already inside. That I'll show you right away. Okay, so if we open the main settings and if we go here to the resources, we can see here in the resources that we have the table championships, we have the table divisions, we have the table genders, we have the table groups, we have the table games, results and game results. And in each of them we can see that I have the corresponding information. So for the championships I have championship ID 1, the name National Cup, championship 2, name UEFA Cup, championship 3, name Champions League. Exactly the same thing that we have in here. For the divisions is exactly the same, where we have the senior and the junior. For the genders we have the male and the female. For the groups we have group A, B, C with 1, 2, 3 as the primary keys. And for the results we have 1, team A won, a tie and team B won. And then we have our games, where the games have the combination of all the correspondent primary keys of the other tables, the team A, the team B and the date. Basically what we have exactly here, instead of creating the tables in the database as we had done before in previous tutorials, I'm just showing you another way to have the same thing but in a static way. So the purpose of this tutorial is not to be focused on layouts, to be beautiful or not, is not to be focused on doing this on the database, is simply to show you how can you configure a matrix to have combined columns. So that's the focus of this tutorial. So just to be faster, so we don't be creating the databases here, basically what I did here was to create here the correspondent database to simulate the corresponding database structure, but in static data here. And then for last, we have here the game results, which has 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, which basically is this table here, this data here. Okay, so besides these 4 tables, I can see that I have other resources, that I create other resources here. For the championships, I have other resource called championship options, where basically what this is, this is a simple list. The options are associative array. We're gonna have the key will be the championship ID and the value will be the name. So this will be an associative list saying 1 corresponds to the National Cup, 2 corresponds to UEFA Cup, 3 corresponds to Champion Leagues. So then I can replace these IDs here with the correspondent names of each individual table. As you can see here, doesn't appear 1, appear National Cup. So that's why we need to have these options here. But I'll show you this very soon. So first of all, let's go here to our page editor, to our canvas, and let's start to creating our matrix. So let's just drag and drop our matrix to the content region. And what we want to do here is simply let's configure this matrix. So first of all, let's select the row from the table add section. So let's use the layers for doing that. And what we want to do is to select this table row here. And in here, what we want to do is to go to the load resources in here, and we want to load a resource, which in this case are the results. And we don't want this to be on page loads, because this resource here will be loaded when the matrix itself gets loaded. Additionally, let's show here the borders so we can see where we are clicking better. Okay. So for this table row we need to define the primary key. So in here the primary key, it is results ID, and in this column I want to show the name, which is basically this column here. I want to show the names, the attribute name. Okay, so this part is done. Now I want to select the row from the body. So I go here, I select the row from the body, and in this row I want to load a new resource, which in this case are the games. And I need to define where is the primary key, which is the game ID. The game ID, as we can see here, primary key is the game ID, and I wanted to show it here. In this case I don't want to show anything in here, because in this case what I want to do, I want to show multiple attributes inside. So what I'm gonna do here is I'll drag and drop a div inside of here, and this div, that's where I'm gonna show the attributes. In this case will be the team A. Then in this other, I'll drag another div, where this other div I'll drag, or I'll configure it to show the attributes with the team B. Additionally, I'll convert this to spans. And in here, let's put here space, let's put here space x space. Okay. And additionally, I wanted to put it here, the brackets. Where in here then I'll show the dates. This will be a span, and I want to show it here, the attribute dates, which is in the game table, this attribute here. So already show team A, team B, and then we are showing the dates inside of parentheses, as we are showing here. So we put in the middle, we put space x space, so we can have this, and then in here I should put space and then the parentheses, space and parentheses, and then in here I need to close the parentheses. Okay, something like this. So if we save, well, before that, so let's select now the matrix object, the matrix element, and let's load. In the resource load, we want to load the game results, and this one, it will be on page loads, and then this handler here, it will load all the other resources inside that we defined before. Okay, so additional, we need to scroll down to define the primary keys, where in this case will be the game ID and the results ID. As we can see here, the game result type, we have two primary keys, game ID and result ID. And additional, we just want to show this for the results that exists. Okay, and in here let's put like something like X, something like this, where in here we can centralize the texts. Something like this. In here the same thing. In here we can change this to be something like games/results. Well, for now let's just save and let's preview what we currently have. Okay, so currently we have here our axis Y with the correspondent games, where we are seeing already we have the space axis apps, team A, team B and the date, so this is correct. We have here the axis X, it is correct too. Now this guys is not appearing here, so let's see it's Y. So let's select the matrix, result ID. Okay, so it's not working because, so if we go to the resource, if we search the game results, we did something wrong here, that in here needs to be result ID, so we put game ID and just result, but in our Excel, in our table, we have here is not result, is result ID that corresponds to this primary key here. So what we need to do, we need to put here result ID. Instead, another way of doing this is instead it will be leaving this as results, and then in here what I could have done, it will be in here in the foreign keys, I could have put it saying in here I could put the results attribute corresponds to the result ID. It's exactly the same thing, but for now just let's leave it this as this. So let's save and let's preview again, and now we should see the axis. Okay, so now it's working. So now what we want to do next is to do all the columns previous for this part here, for each individual column. So let's add a bunch of columns here before, so we want to add the previous columns in here. So what we want to have is, we want to have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go and select the text body, and in the body let's add here 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. And let's move all these columns to the beginning. Oops, in here. Okay. Now we want to select the game results and we want to give it a call span of 5. So let's just collapse this just to be faster. So in here, let's add here a call span of 5. Okay, it is correct. In here we can put, okay, here doesn't matter because this will be replaced. And now what we want to do here, it will be, I want to categorize this as add column. And I want to categorize all of these as related with previous elements, including this one here. Okay, and now in here I want to show, in this case, I want to show the championship ID. In this one, I want to show the division ID. This one, I want to show the gender ID. And in here, I want to show the group ID. And let's save and let's see what we currently have. Okay, so currently I'm seeing here I have a bunch of ones, the correspondent IDs, which is correct. Now I want to replace all these IDs by the correspondent names of the correspondent tables. So I don't want to show here the primary keys, I want to show the correspondent labels. So to do that, let's go back to each individual column, and what I want to do in here, I want to expand the advanced properties, and in the available values I want to add a resource which will contain that specific value. So which in this case the championship options. This is the associative list containing the championship ID as the key and the label, the name, as the value. So we can have something like 1 equal to 1 is to the key 1 as the value National Cup, the key 2 as the value UEFA Cup, and just like that. So we need to do the same thing for this guy here, where in here I want to have a resource which will be the divisions options. In here I want to have a resource where this guy is the gender options, and this one it is the group options. Okay. So I suppose that you're asking what are these options here. So these options are resources that we have here created too. So for the for the championships, basically what was done here was we create a variable which has an empty list, and then what we did was the next we execute a loop that basically to loop for the variable championships, which will loop for this list here, so this list here, and for each record basically we'll put the result from each record in this variable championship. So basically to put this piece of here in that variable championship, then when it loops the second time, it will put the these values here inside of the championship variable, and just like that. So, and then it will for each iteration of the loop, what we're going to do is it will set a new variable, which is this variable here, championship options, that we create before, which is an empty list. Basically we'll put the key, which in this case will be the championship ID, equal to the name. So I'm creating an associative array, an associative list. So another way of doing this, so I'm doing this in here because we have all this data statically. If we had this in tables, a very simple way of doing this would be just go here and create a new resource where we just needed to select the corresponding table and select this option here, the get options, and automatically the system it will create that for us. The same thing that it will just to get the championships list, so the records from that specific table. What we needed to do is just to go here to the load handler and to go here and simply select the corresponding table and select this option here, get multiple records list. Is exactly the same action. So we are not doing this directly from the database, we are doing this with static data, because the focus of this tutorial is just to show you how you can have this with combined tables. Okay, so first part is done. What we need to do, we have here a loading bar, we can add a cool span tool here, where in here will be equals span 7, and besides this we have another element here, another row here, which is the row of when the elements are empty, so we can change the call span in here too. Okay, done. So if we save, and now if we refresh this, we can see that the numbers were already replaced by the correspondent labels, as we can see here. Now what we want to do, so we are almost done. So as you can see, we are getting very similar with this thing that we are seeing here. What we need to do next is to group this table. So how can we do that? And that's the focus of this tutorial. How can you group columns? So we are currently grouped the columns on the vertical part, so on the axis Y, in this part here. But if we had columns in the axis X, so in here, in this part, we could group them too. It's exactly the same way. So let's go back to our editor, and in here, what we want to do is to select each individual column. And we want to go here to the type of the column. And besides to be this add column, we want this to be add column group combine. And the same thing for these ones. So we want this to be related with previous elements, and we want this to be a combined color too. A combined column too. So this means that the system will try to combine all these columns with the next item below. So when we save this, and when we refresh the page here, we can see that we already have the columns combined. Of course, so we can add some borders in here, so we can understand what the system really did. So we can add the borders, we can put this text centered. Okay. So let's save and let's refresh, and here it is. As you can see, basically what we have here is very similar with what we have here. Well, in here in this column the text is not aligned to the center. Okay, something like this. So in here the text is not bold. We can put here the normal font size. In this case it's normal. Something like this. In here we could have put some backgrounds. So, but basically all the changes now are simply interface changes. Of course that's not the focus of our tutorial. So the focus of our tutorial was just to show you how could you have something like we are seeing in here. As you can see, this is exactly the same. So we have a matrix, a dynamic matrix that is creating automatically from the database or from some static data. In this case we did some static data, but that simulates to get the things from the database. It's exactly the same thing. So, and that's it. So this is just basically to teach you how you can combine columns in matrix. Is exactly the same thing, and that's it. So thank you very much.